So I want you to think about the last time a massive, like a totally new software system, or maybe a whole departmental restructuring, was just kind of dropped on your desk out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. The classic surprise rollout.
Right. And it just felt like absolute chaos, didn't it? Like you were frustrated, your team was probably scrambling, and the whole thing just seemed perfectly designed to, make your job harder.
And you're definitely not alone in that feeling.
No, not at all. Because according to McKinsey, while about 56% of organizations actually hit their initial goals with these large-scale changes.
Which sounds pretty good at first, right?
Yeah, sounds great. But only a really dismal 12% actually sustain those gains beyond 3 years.
Wow. Just 12%.
Yeah, 12. So today we're doing a deep dive into why your company's blueprints just keep catching on fire.
And the really fascinating thing is it's not about the blueprint itself. So we're looking at this amazing paper today called Synchronizing Change, how the timing of employee participation shapes organizational transformation by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to basically figure out why these change initiatives fail. And it's not because of, what is changing. It's about a hidden temporal gap.
Exactly. It's an issue of when people are brought into the loop. Because typically, we view change management as this static checklist. Step 1, draft the memo. Step 2, send the memo. Step 3, magic happens.
Yeah, profit.
Right. But this research, it really forces us to look at change through the lens of event system theory.
Event system theory.
Yeah, which basically means treating change as a dynamic, temporally bounded chain of events. So before we can even talk about how to fix failed initiatives, we have to understand this invisible wedge that's just driving management and employees apart.
And that wedge is time.
Time. Exactly. The paper introduces this core concept called asynchronicity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Asynchronicity.
So asynchronicity is this massive temporal misalignment. You have senior leaders who spend, 6 months conceptualizing, planning, and mentally preparing for a transformation.
Right. They're looking at the failing revenue charts for half a year.
Yeah, they're agonizing over it. And then the frontline employees, they learn about this entire massive shift in a 30-minute town hall meeting on a Friday afternoon.
Which is, it's wild when you think about it. It's like planning a massive surprise cross-country move for your partner, but only telling them as the moving truck literally pulls up to the driveway.
That is a perfect analogy. Yes.
Like you've had 6 months to scroll Zillow, process the emotions of leaving, get super excited about the new city, and they just have 5 minutes to panic and pack the fine china. No wonder they resist.
Yeah, the human cost there is just profound. And the research anchors this in Protaska's stages of change.
Oh, right, from psychology.
Exactly. There's this recognized sequence we all go through to change our behavior. It goes pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance.
Okay, so 5 stages.
Right. So when leadership spends 6 months planning, they organically move through those early stages. They get to process the grief of the old system, but then they drop the final plan on the employees and basically demand that they skip those first 3 stages entirely.
They're just expected to instantly be in the action phase.
Exactly. Jump straight to action.
Mm-hmm.
And rushing people through those psychological stages, it just leads to emotional overload.
Well, yeah.
You get superficial compliance. People nod in the town hall, but they're not really on board.
Right, because they haven't processed it.
Exactly. And eventually that turns into deep change cynicism.
Which makes sense. Think about your own workplace. How much, change readiness was just completely lost in your team because leadership assumed their months of mental prep instantly magically transferred to you.
And there's this really interesting paradox the research points out here about change velocity.
Change velocity, right. Because leadership always wants to move fast.
Oh, absolutely. So they keep the planning circle incredibly small. They think, if we delay employee involvement, we can plan this much faster.
Which, to be fair, 4 people in a room can draft a plan faster than 400 people.
In a vacuum, sure. But the paradox is that this secretive approach drastically slows down the implementation.
Because the plan actually has to survive the real world.
Right. Because of resistance and because you lose the frontline decision quality, the executives design a process that looks beautiful on a whiteboard.
But then it shatters on the factory floor.
Yeah.
Because, the whiteboard didn't know that the forklift turning radius makes the new loading procedure physically impossible.
Yes. And then you have to halt production, redesign the procedure, retrain everyone. It takes way longer than if you just brought the floor workers in earlier.
So the root cause is this temporal gap. But the solution isn't just, open the floodgates and having more participation.
Right.
It's about when and who participates.
Exactly. It's highly structured. The research breaks this down into 4 temporal designs organizations can use to synchronize change. It's a matrix of timing, so early versus late, and breadth collective versus selective.
Okay, so let's walk through these. What's the first one?
The first is collective early. This is involving the whole organization right from the start.
Oh, well, everyone.
Yeah. They share this example of a European healthcare institution, about 200 staff members, and they spent 3 entire months in dialogue to redesign their care delivery.
Wait, hold on. Collective early sounds like a lovely utopian ideal, but practically, having 200 people design a process sounds like an absolute nightmare. Just way too many cooks in the kitchen. Doesn't that grind actual daily work to a complete halt?
It sounds chaotic, right? But the research addresses this. They use highly structured cross-functional pods. It wasn't just 200 people shouting in a room. And what happened was it revealed all these invisible workflow conflicts that leadership had no idea about.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and because everyone built it together, 3 years later, they had actually sustained all their quality improvements.
So they beat the McKinsey statistic.
Exactly. But to your point about the chaos, you only use collective early for behavioral or cultural change.
Right, where the shared understanding is the change.
Yes. But if it's a complex technical change, you'd use something like collective late.
Collective late. So everyone, but later in the process.
Right. They cite a mid-sized manufacturing company. They had a 20-person core cross-functional team fix the core technical processes first.
So the small team builds the engine.
Exactly. And then they bring in the 80 production employees during implementation to adapt it to their local context.
Okay, I like that. It's like the engineers build the car, but the drivers get to adjust the steering wheel and the seats before the race starts.
Spot on. But what if you have a massive, massive company?
Right, like thousands of people. You can't do collective late there.
That's where you use selective early. You involve representatives early on. The example is a global construction company with 22,000 employees.
22,000.
Yeah. So they used 165 representatives across 16 different domains to design the new processes.
Okay, that makes sense for the design phase, but how did the other, 21,800 people feel when it launched?
Well, the 165 reps felt super valued, but for everyone else, it was a disaster.
Oh, of course.
Because sense-making is experiential.
Huh?
You can't just hand someone a PDF manual and expect them to feel the same ownership as the people who spent 6 months designing it.
So the rest of the company still got the moving truck.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is that organizations fail when they mismatch the design to the change. You can't use a highly selective, secretive process for a cultural transformation that requires everyone's buy-in.
Right, the tool has to fit the job.
Yeah.
But, okay, even if you pick the right model, say you need collective early and you structure it perfectly, it feels like that's completely useless if you treat this participation as like an unpaid extracurricular activity.
Oh, absolutely. Under-resourced participation actually breeds way more cynicism than no participation at all.
Because you're asking an employee to redesign a system on top of their 40-hour work week. That's a burden, not empowerment.
Yes. The research highlights a tech company transitioning to agile methodologies. They didn't just ask people to work harder. They actually gave employees 2 half-days a month of reduced productivity expectations.
Wait, really? They actively told them to produce less?
Yes, specifically for learning and experimentation, and they gave them a dedicated support team.
It's like buying a multi-million-dollar high-performance sports car and then just, refusing to pay for premium gas. You can't implement collective early if you're not willing to fundamentally adjust the time clocks for the people involved.
And their operating models, too. You can't have participatory change inside a rigid top-down hierarchy.
Well, right.
The paper brings up a healthcare network that had to completely shift from individual physician metrics to team-based outcomes. And they had to reduce their bureaucratic approval layers.
Because if you need 3 signatures to change a bandage protocol, you're not exactly empowered.
Exactly. And a huge part of this is decision authority, clarity.
Meaning what, exactly?
Organizations must be brutally honest about what is genuinely open for employee influence versus what is already decided.
Oh, I see. Like, don't ask for my input on the paint color if you've already bought 10 gallons of blue.
Right, because that leads to the toxic trap of pseudo-participation. If people feel like their input is just theater, they will never trust you again.
So we've looked at how to survive a single change event, right? But how do the best organizations stop treating change like a sudden crisis? Like, how do they make it just a natural, continuous evolution?
To do that, you have to build foundational, long-term capabilities for synchronous change. And the first step is recalibrating the psychological contract.
This psychological contract.
Yeah, the unspoken agreement between employer and employee. It has to shift so that mutual influence is just expected.
So it's not just boss dictates, worker does.
Right. And that also requires distributed leadership. Change management skills can't just be hoarded in the C-suite anymore. Managers at all levels need to know how to facilitate this stuff.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you are leading a team, how do you actually build this?
The research highlights two key capabilities. First is continuous learning systems,
Okay.
and the second is temporal intelligence.
Temporal intelligence. I like
Yeah.
the sound of that.
It's the organizational capacity to know when to rush and when to wait.
Oh, wow. So you don't just react the same way to everything.
Exactly. Temporally intelligent organizations look at a change and consciously decide, is this a crisis requiring rapid action, or is this a strategic pivot requiring slow, deliberate sense-making?
Right. So to wrap up our deep dive today, the huge takeaway here is that the success of your next big project, it might not actually depend on the brilliance of your plan.
Probably doesn't, honestly.
Right. It depends on the temporal alignment between you and the people executing it. You have to start early, go broad when behavior matters, and actually fund the participation you're asking for.
And I want to leave everyone with a final thought to kind of mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this entire deep dive talking about corporate structures, right? C-suites, frontline workers. But consider this concept of asynchronicity in your personal life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if temporal intelligence is the key to synchronizing groups at work, how might our personal relationships change if we manage that temporal gap better? Like introducing radical new ideas to our families.
Oh, man. The dinner table moving truck.
Exactly. Are we expecting our loved ones to immediately accept a new worldview or lifestyle change that we've been quietly pondering for years?
You've had 3 years to read the books, and they get 5 minutes over pot roast to catch up.
Right. We really need to give them the grace of contemplation, too.
That is such a good point to end on. Temporal intelligence is everywhere. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you take these insights back to your teams and maybe your dinner tables, too. Catch you next time.